I'd now like to introduce Al Dotson, who leads the Land Development and Government Relations Practice Group at Bilzin, Sumberg. Al is nationally recognized for his work on public-private partnerships, and he is with us today to moderate our next panel, Redevelopment Ready, Miami 2.0. Al.
Thank you. Before we get started, I just want to know how many of you were here for the last panel? Just raise your hand. Okay, I'm a zoning attorney. And I have told Greg, where are you? You must leave right now. Thank you very much. Give Greg a hand. What we're going to do here is something a little bit different than the last two panels. I'm going to introduce two of the projects and the developers associated with them. Then we're going to have a little conversation about what you have just seen and what's in store for South Florida. So the first person I'm going to introduce to have an opportunity to present his project is our friend Arnaud Karsenti. Let me tell you a little bit about Arnaud. He's the managing principal of 13th Floor Investments and has been active in the real estate business since 2003. And since creating 13th Floor, has acquired, developed, and managed billions of dollars in real estate assets. He graduated cum laude from the Pratt School of Engineering at Duke University and holds an MBA from Harvard. 13th Floor, despite its haunting reputation, has been very lucky to Arnold. He is now embarking on a new transit-oriented development in partnership with Miami-Dade County as part of the community's renewed push to create development nodes as part of and around transit stations. Ladies and gentlemen, give a hand to Arnaud.
Thanks, Al. Thanks, Al. I really appreciate it. Can you guys hear me? Great. My name is Arnaud Karsenti, and on behalf of the Adler Group and 13th Floor Investments, it's my real pleasure to present to you what is a very, very near and dear project to my heart, the link at Douglas. Before I present and begin, I want to say there's a lot of familiar faces in this room, a lot of friends, some shareholders as well. Matter of fact, there's one extremely important shareholder. His name is Gabriel Karsenti. He's 8 years old. He just won his fantasy football winnings, and he decided to invest 100% of those $800 into this project. So Gabriel, this one's for you. No, it's fine. Stay. It's fine. After. No, just stay, Gabriel. It's fine. Just sit down. So when we think about transit, maybe something like this comes to mind. How many of you kind of experience this on a daily basis, or maybe at least sometimes bi-daily, if not weekly? Certainly we're no stranger to this, and it's becoming more and more of a factor in our lives. And the reason for this is really because of this, which is the most important statistic, that the whole reason why we're even in this room is because our population is growing, and it's growing rapidly. There's 300,000 people that move to Florida a year. That's 1,000 people a day. And if you average about a household, a car per household, that's about 400 or 500 cars that come to this market every day. So actually, I think the government should have a new policy of banning immigration of cars to Florida, which would make the problem before a lot easier. But this trend is really what has caused a lot of the disruption that you see. So if you think about where we were years ago, there actually was a great highway system. There was a lot of good density, and it was kind of an urban, suburban infill density. And if you take the relatively same picture today, same highway system, but a lot more density, a lot more buildings, and we've really evolved into a true 21st century global city. And so the proportion of infrastructure that we have grown car-wise has not kept up with the actual bodies and the cars themselves. So what Miami-Dade has done as a result of this is create a fantastic grid of busways and metro stations. And they're actually very well used. Matter of fact, 10% of Miami uses the bus, and about 5% of Miami uses the metro, which seems like a small number, but it's actually a lot of bodies. That's 400,000 people a day that actually travel here. And the metro rail system, which many of you may have already experienced, is an artery that goes from the south to Dadeland South and all the way to the airport, and then also extends through the western part of Hialeah. And it's actually a great system. One little challenge, however, is to access it. And the problem you have is Miami's a widespread area, as everybody knows, and that last mile is hard to reach. And if anybody's ever walked even 2 blocks in July in the hot sun or the rain of Miami, you'll know that even 2 blocks away is a very long distance, unlike some of the other urban cities that we're familiar with. And so, even though some of the trends have been in the positive direction, there's still been that last mile problem. Until a little company called Uber and Lyft showed up and somewhat created an ability to access that last mile in a much more accessible manner. Matter of fact, Miami-Dade has an initiative now with Uber called Uber Plus that if you are within 3 miles of the metro station, they'll actually cover your ride up to $3, which creates an incentive. Another trend that is happening is kind of the ownership and the relationship that we have with cars themselves. Just quick show of hands. How many of you in the audience have 4 cars? Okay. How many of you have 3 cars? How many of you have 2 cars? How many of you have 1 car? Okay, now here's the question. How many of you have no cars? See, and are above the age of 16. Right? So there were about 15 hands that showed up. What this chart suggests is that over time there will be a lot more hands because the autonomous revolution, both driven by car sharing as well as autonomous driving, is totally changing the behavior that we have and the relationship that we have with cars. And there has been, and just like our consumer behavior is changing, so is real estate, and so is Miami. And I think there has never been a better time in the history of this city to have a true transit-oriented development. I'm so excited to share with you the Lincoln Douglas. The Lincoln Douglas promises to be a project that is going to be both a work, play, and live environment in the heart of the city of Miami, and will congregate not only modes of transportation, but modes of life. When we think about where we are in the city, where the project stands, first of all, before the Lincoln Douglas, there are other projects of its kind that have already sprouted, some of which we actually have participated in, and others that some of our friends have done or are in the process of doing, starting from Dadeland all the way to Hialeah, and of course everybody's familiar with the Grand Central, the Miami Central, the Bright Line. Lincoln Douglas is a project that will be in the middle of it all, and literally at the intersection of Coral Gables, Coconut Grove, and the city of Miami. And so from that perspective, it is true, like its name indicates, a true connector for this city. Focusing a little bit on the site plan, what we see is that this project promises to have, is home to several modes of transportation, starting with the most obvious one, which is the Metro Rail. You have obviously automobiles, which will be both cars, people's cars, as well as the Ubers and the Lyfts of the world. Pedestrian access, which together with the underline will create also a very special environment. You have the bus circulation. This happens to be one of the largest bus hubs in Miami. And finally, what people don't realize, but is actually an extremely active mode of transportation, is the trolley. And if you haven't ridden the Coral Gables trolley or the Coconut Grove trolley, you will be surprised to see how incredibly useful and efficient it is to get from places like this to places like Miracle Mile and Cocoa Walk, et cetera. And so the result is a true transit-oriented development. And it's important when we talk about this buzzword TOD that we differentiate between being near transportation and truly being on or in transportation, and being in a place where transportation is actually part of the development and not necessarily just an adjunct of it. And that's what these kinds of projects are promised to be. And Douglas is not the only one, but certainly it's a good example of one. So the net result should be a place where a true transportation kind of utopia, a village that congregates not just uses of real estate, but places to connect you to them. And from a place like Douglas, you should be able to access Brickell, should be able to access Dadeland, the beaches, et cetera, much more easily than by car. More than just a real estate project with uses and modes of transportation, today's world is really all about lifestyle. And one of the things that is starting to happen is really activating dormant spaces. A lot of these metro stations have been, by definition, just kind of functional portions of functional concrete objects that have been built and that have not truly been a part of your life. You're just there, you hop on the train, you leave, you go somewhere else. But in most cities, the train, like Michael Adler always says, you could always pick up a piece of paper, a newspaper, or a coffee, or have lunch, or pick up dinner, or your dry cleaning, and not really, we haven't experienced that yet in Miami. And we are going to have in Lincoln Douglas a very special area called the Public Plaza, which will be a pedestrian plaza that will be a public-private area that we will be able to, not just as a resident, come down and have a meal and a cup of coffee, but it'll also be an actual public landmark. And more than just a landmark, it also creates a lot of functionality that you otherwise wouldn't have. As an example, here on the screen is something called a transit screen, which is a technology that will allow you to see from a point of interest where else, based on where you're going, what's available, what the transportation offerings are available to you, how long the next train is coming, how many Ubers are nearby, whether there's surge pricing, whether there's city bikes that are open. Those kinds of factors. And so someone who needs to be downtown by a certain time or catch an airplane can actually use these kinds of technologies that are not just on screens like this, but also on their smartphones to allow them to do that. When we think about the massing of this project, we thought long and hard about a true mixed-use environment. And we recognized that there would be a lot of visibility from US 1, from the metro, and both we thought about the project looking to the project and looking from the project. And so what we've come up with is a blend of residential, office, and retail. And the retail, much to the points that our earlier panelists were discussing, is primarily experiential retail. The coffee shops of the world, the delis, the markets, we have a grocer that we're talking to as well. In terms of the deal with the county, this is one of those rare instances where you really get the opportunity to create a real win-win. People often have asked me how the experience has been with the county, expecting that it's been particularly difficult or something, but actually it's been extremely logical and very driven by basically a very simple goal, is that we are aligned in our objectives. The county is looking to activate these sites, and we obviously are looking to build a successful project. And so what we've done is we've entered into a ground lease that begins when we deliver the projects, and that's a 90-year lease. We can build up to 2 million feet of space. The cost of the project shall be approximately over $500 million, and about $15 million of that is earmarked directly for county improvements, of which $600,000 is going to the underline directly. Finally, the revenue benefits of the county should accrue to over $500 million, or about $500 million over the course of the term of the lease. And since we are all on the same page, the better we do, the better the county does. And that's why it's been a really fun deal to structure. The most interesting point, though, about this deal from a structural perspective, in my opinion, is the fact that it belongs to a rapid transit zone, which actually creates a zero parking requirement. And this is very unique because people think about zoning and land use as being very parking heavy and intense, but actually the whole objective of these sites is to reduce car usage and increase ridership to mass transit. And so while we're not going to necessarily build no parking, that would not be necessarily marketable, this project does offer us an opportunity to be more efficient with parking, to create those studies, and to ultimately go towards, since this project will also be phased, it will allow us, hopefully down the road, to build less and less parking. A quick point on what we're calling innovative housing, or other people will refer to it as micro units. The first phase of this project will likely be a micro-unit building. For those of you who are not as familiar with that, it's something that's been very strongly done in the Bostons of the world, the San Franciscos, the New Yorks. Concept being people want the lifestyle, they want the urban living, they want to live within a city, but they can't necessarily afford a larger unit. So by reducing the size of the units, we're giving them a better bang for their buck. And the definition of innovative housing is small units, larger common area spaces, really oversized spaces, less cars and less carbon footprint. So more or less a more efficient structure. And so we actually went up to cities like Boston and actually walked through some of these units to see if they were real, because it's a little hard to really feel what a 300 or 400 square foot unit would feel like when some of us probably have rooms in our homes that are that size. And interestingly, and I'm talking from personal experience, they are unbelievably efficient, and they're very, they're much more spacious than you think. And back to the point earlier about the furniture and and just the way in which the units are laid out, you find yourself in a very livable environment. The last point I wanted to make is on the point of technology, which really a project like this is much more than an opportunity to build a landmark project for a great city like Miami. It's also an opportunity to push the envelope technology-wise, and not just on app-based software, but also at the actual pedestrian level. And I think this is where a place where the physical world and the virtual world can connect more than just the other modes of circulation. And so, like we talked about before, technologies like the transit screens or apps on the phone, these are just the beginnings of things that we can use. And the whole idea here is for it to be open and for it to evolve over time. So it's been a real pleasure to present this project to you. As you can tell from my voice, I'm terribly excited about it. It's something that is very personal to my heart and to Michael's as well. And can't wait for it to be built.
Arnaud, before you have a seat, I'm going to ask you a question. First of all, don't ever worry about being upstaged by a young person. It happens all the time. Before you sit down, in the 70s was when the zoning attorney, Stanley Price, drafted the legislation that led to TODs. In the 90s, Miami-Dade County had a huge push to really develop transit-oriented sites around Metro Rail. It did not work. You've mentioned the decrease in ridership, people not using as many cars. Why is it going to work this time?
I think to your point earlier, a lot of technologies are ahead of their time. I think now is a different time. I think the way we are responding to technology and to the way we're living today is very different. And I could give you one very simple example. People value their time today a lot different than they used to. People used to love the concept of the American dream, pulling out in your nice big car, taking a nice commute, listening to the music. That commute now has gone from an enjoyable experience to a 1.5 or 2 hour at times burden. And it's really robbing people of their time. What TODs can do is actually give you a lot of that time back. And so they allow you to just kind of collapse the logistics and the middle ground of time and actually focus on the time that's really important, which is your time with your family, your time with your friends, your time at work, and the things you want to be doing.
Got a few more questions for you, but we're going to go to Albert Milo first. Thank you, Arnaud.
Thank you.
Besides having a great first name, Albert Milo is someone who has been developing in this industry for 25 years. He's the Senior Vice President of the Related Urban Development Group. He is someone who is building a city within a city, whose focus was on affordable housing and workforce housing, but now he's going into an entirely new area that you're about to hear about. Someone whose passion for community and family shows in everything that he does, including the developments that he focuses on. Albert Milo.
Thank you. So, I'll leave this home. Thank you, and thank University of Miami for having me here. It's an honor for me to be able to talk about our most recent project in partnership with Miami-Dade County. It was a highly publicized project. There was a lot of articles written about the project during the whole procurement process, but for us, it presented a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, which is to, as Al mentioned, somewhat build a city within a city. There aren't too many times in your career that you have an opportunity to work on something of this magnitude, not just in scale, not just in size, but more importantly of impact to the community. You'll see a little bit of history on this community in a few of the slides, but this is right now, the project encompasses approximately 55 acres the boundaries of the project are from Northwest 12th Avenue to Northwest 15th Avenue on the west, and from Northwest 62nd Street, which is Martin Luther King Boulevard, north to Northwest 67th Street. So again, 55 acres in what is really like the middle of the city of Miami, just on the outskirts of what's all of the development that you've seen happening in the Wynwood area, in the design district. And it's our belief that this was the logical next place for development to happen. But again, more importantly, before we were able to get into the development mode of this, it was important for us to understand the history of this community and what impact this development was going to have on this community, and how we can try to be sensitive to those to the residents that live there today. And for those that don't know, this is the largest and oldest public housing project in the southeastern United States. It's currently have 709 units of public housing. It was built during in the 1930s during FDR's presidency. So it's been a long time. And when it was built, it was originally built as housing of last resort. It was good quality housing for the community, and through the years, for a lot of reasons, which we could touch on a little bit after, it declined to its current state. You know, our approach to this redevelopment was always different. We understood that it wasn't about housing, even though we had to rebuild the housing. It was about what services and what amenities and what components did we have to bring to this neighborhood, to this community, in order to allow it to thrive long term. So we approached it from the perspective of saying, well, what are the educational challenges that this community is facing? What are the job placement challenges that this community is facing? What are the retail challenges that this community is facing? So we had to take a little different approach than just saying, well, we're going to rebuild affordable housing. And the other part that was important was also to find a way through proper design, proper amenities, proper open spaces, incorporation of art in public places, incorporating transit nodes, and how we can make the development, which what you see there is just, it kind of looks like a lot of tic-tac-toe boards, right? With just alleys and streets, and there's not a lot of cohesiveness to the neighborhood. And what did we have to do in order to bring a mix of income back to this neighborhood? Because it's been proven, if you have a high concentration of poverty in an area, that area is not going to succeed. You could build new buildings, they'll be pretty for a short time frame, but it will eventually get and decline back to its original state. So you heard Greg earlier talk about mixed income housing. That was our approach. When we had, I forget, 6, 7 competitors when this started, everybody looked at this predominantly as, well, we're going to rebuild affordable housing. We did it. We took a different approach, and we said we're going to rebuild this as a neighborhood like any other well-established neighborhood, and that's what we were able to do, and ultimately succeeded in the procurement side of it. Here's just some of the living conditions of the units there today. And again, there are families. There's over 600 families that currently live in these buildings. Some of the interiors. And here's just a 3D site plan of our project, and the majority of the northern quadrant of the project is going to be, again, redeveloped as mixed income housing with a combination of public housing, affordable housing, and workforce housing. So one of our commitments to Miami-Dade County was that we would find an approach by where we would not displace the residents that currently live there. And so we had to find a development approach to use the vacancy of the project to be able to renovate some units temporarily and vacate a portion of the development, and then move the families into that section, rebuild some new housing, and then work our way through the 55 acres of development. The middle component, as you see, we were bringing a school, community facilities, and big open spaces to the community, which is not there today, along with community health facilities, retail opportunities along MLK Boulevard, and a national grocery store, 40,000 square foot grocery store on the corner of 12th Avenue and MLK Boulevard. And the idea is to bring the higher densities towards the southern portion of the development to respect the single-family homes on the northern portion of the development. And since this development has gotten started, and I've seen several people here in the area that have asked me about this, is there's been an ongoing momentum, and we're still in the initial stage of transferring families in there. We haven't actually started full-blown construction. That's going to happen in 3 or 4 months. We're finalizing our approvals with HUD, but it's been a tremendous response from the community from the development aspect from this perspective based on what's happening, again, on the push in the Wynwood area in the design district relating to like the arts community. And we all know that the arts community is something that usually will take a chance initially on an area that's up and coming and start to make some positive momentum in that area. As a company, obviously, Related is well known for its commitment to the arts, and it's something that we're heavily involved with, and we incorporate into all of our projects. We make a big emphasis on art and the change that art can make in a community in what we're doing. We're also bringing home ownership to the site. So we want to be able to have the opportunity for upward mobility within our development. So you can be a resident of public housing, and we'll have housing for you all the way up until you're able to purchase a home. Because the idea is that public housing should not be housing in perpetuity. The idea is to provide economic growth opportunities for the residents to have upward mobility and be able to move while still enjoying the neighborhood that they like and not have to move out of the neighborhood now because their economic potential has increased. We had a big commitment to job training in this community. It was an important part as far as when this development gets built, that the people that live there are participating in that redevelopment effort, not just people from the outside and they're just going to get a new home. It was part of the buy-in from the community of having them have not only access to the jobs but also training. So big job training component for the community, including training for folks that may have had some previous offenses and now they've got an opportunity to maybe get back on their feet again and get a better paying job. So I'll show you a little bit now of the history of the development, and you'll see some of the aerial different perspectives of it. This is just the site plan again, and he's not talking.
No volume?
No volume.
Overtown or Colored Town, which became densely populated with some homes being dilapidated, no electricity, no access to city water and sewage, a breeding ground for infectious diseases. The hurricane of 1926 made matters worse. In 1933, millionaire black businessmen Kelsey L. Farr and Reverend John E. Comer led a lobby to new U.S. President Franklin D. Roosevelt to create a new Negro colony outside the city. President Roosevelt was no stranger to Miami, seen here with then Mayor Robert R. Williams. The $1 million Liberty Square project was completed in February 1937. Later, while E.G. Sewell was mayor of Miami, a concrete dividing wall separated blacks in Liberty Square from whites who lived nearby. This is what remains of the 6-foot segregation wall. But the effects of that wall are still being felt by Liberty Square residents today, and that's what we're addressing.
Those are some of the art plazas and public spaces that we're going to incorporate into the development. You see, it's a whole different street grid, and compared to what's there today, which was just a fragmented street pattern of. This is what we're calling our central park of our development, which is the center block, which will be the main area for different services along with educational components. And these are some of the townhomes, the for sale townhomes. $40,000 square foot national grocery store. That's a shot of one of our buildings on MLK Boulevard. So when this is a 5-year project in multiple phases. It'll be, when it's all said and done, it'll be over 1,500 units of residential housing. Combination of, again, public, affordable, and workforce housing. It'll have approximately 70,000, 80,000 square feet of retail space, including retail space for mom and pop businesses. And it'll also have a host of other, like a community service facility, educational space, and all of the different public spaces that you saw in the site plan. So thank you for your time. Appreciate being on here.
Before you sit down, you mentioned 5 years. That's only the construction phase. You're going to be in this project for 75 years. Not only are you building housing, which is what you've been doing for 25 years, but you're going to build, own, and maintain all of this property for 75 years, mixed-use development. I'm going to ask you a two-part question. Talk a little bit about the challenges associated with that, converting from a developer to the actual owner and operator of a city. I'm going to call you the mayor of Liberty Square one day. The second question is that this could end up being the hole in a donut. You call this a transformational project. What is in view? What do you have? What is your expectation of what this project will do in the surrounding community?
So those are excellent questions. As we, post the development aspect of the project, we have a 75-year lease with Miami-Dade County as part of our public-private partnership. We have a revenue sharing agreement with the county by where they're going to share in a good portion of the cash flow of the different phases of the development. From our perspective, that's one of the key components of why we were interested in that, because not only do we have an opportunity to create this great development in this community, but we have an opportunity to, again, I reference it as a legacy project for us, but we have an opportunity to maintain that legacy once it's built, right? Because what we did not want to have happen is to say, well, we built this great project, we've got this great development, and we have a photo op opportunity, and we put something up on our office, and you drive by there 3 or 4 years later, and you say, what happened? So Al's correct. So we will be not only developing and constructing the project, but we will be managing. We will be in charge of the whole management aspect of the project for that 75-year life with Miami-Dade County. The county will generate revenues by which we've also working on a mechanism with the county to how to use those revenues and improve the broader area of the Liberty Square project. Because again, this is a $300+ million redevelopment effort in the heart of Liberty City, the biggest investment this area has known in probably ever. And we don't want to be the only thing happening. We feel this project is going to be the catalyst for what's going to happen in this area. Again, there's already a lot of interest just based on the fact that they know this project is coming. So we believe there's going to be a big spillover effect for the broader Liberty City area. Again, geographically speaking, it's a great location. 12th Avenue, 62nd Street. You're half a mile from the I-95 corridor. You're on 7th Avenue. There's a transit village which ties into all of the different bus. Down on 27th, you have the Metro Rail. So we're working with Miami-Dade Transit and creating other transit nodes and circulators to be able to tie into those other facilities to get you in and around to the larger urban core. But we do feel, again, with our investment and just the interest in the air, that there's going to be a lot of spillover effect, and Miami-Dade County is committed to take those revenues and continue to reinvest those revenues in the broader Liberty City area, over and above our boundaries of 12th to 15th and 62nd to 67th.
Thanks, Albert.
Thank you.
So now we're going to have a conversation with you, Michael. You've heard about the transit-oriented development. You've heard about the transformational project that Albert Milo is working on. And now I get a chance to speak to you as a transformational mixed-use developer. In looking at your bio and doing a little bit of research on you, I think the best way to describe who you are is, if you really want to know what's going to be the hottest commercial area in the future, look to see what Michael Comras is doing now. That's what people say about you. So we talk about Coconut Grove and South Miami as part of who you are. Tell us what really happened in Coconut Grove, and why did it lose its shine, and where's Coconut Grove and South Miami going?
Sure. Thank you, Al. And I want to thank the University of Miami for really putting this impact conference together. As a graduate of the university and a participant on the board, it's an amazing opportunity for students to come in and meet with this collection of professionals, and really an opportunity for them to meet, look for jobs, internships, and things of that nature. So I really encourage everybody to mingle around, grab a student, grab a company owner or principal of one of these projects and talk to them for a little bit. So the Commerce Company has been down here for about 25 years. We focus really on streets, urban areas. We focus on creating places where people want to hang out, creating lifestyle, creating destinations. And certainly known for a lot of the work that we've done on Lincoln Road. Lincoln Road has become one of the top high streets in the country. We focus on a lot of these markets. We focus on areas like Midtown. We focus on the Design District. We focus on Wynwood. We focus on Coconut Grove, South Miami, all sorts of areas. We're not real good on the regional shopping center or the grocery anchored centers. We're really more about specialty and lifestyle. And you heard a lot about that earlier. In the earlier panel, where lifestyle is really driving people out and to occupy their time. People can stay home today. People can order anything they want on their iPhones or their computers. And really the challenge for us as developers is really to look for opportunities to get them off that couch. When you think about health clubs, or you think about movie theaters, there's no reason to go to those anymore. I mean, people go for a specific reason. Even restaurants. Why do people go to restaurants? It's really about the social atmosphere. And the reason why is people want to see people. People like to see people. And that's really an important driver of what we see. When you think about Miami 20 years ago, before they built these tens of thousands of units all around in the downtown, it was a different place. Coconut Grove in the early 90s was the hottest thing. I mean, Cocoa Walk, when it was developed, was really a model for retail projects that were built not only around the country, but around the world. There's actually 3 Cocoa Walks themselves here in Miami. But what happened to Coconut Grove was really the advent of South Beach, the advent of South Miami and Sunset Place at the time. But Miami has changed. Miami, when you build these tens of thousands of units, it's leading to this densification. And what we talk about with these transit-oriented developments and people that want to be in the downtown, I mean, it becomes critical that people can move and people can get out of their house. We really want, so Coconut Grove at that time, before Miami had such density, South Beach got hot, it sucked the life. Today, this density is leading towards localization. And we see that many of the people I talk to now, where are you moving? Oh, I just moved into Coconut Grove. Well, there's a reason why the Grove is coming back. There's a reason why these streets come back, because people don't want to commute anymore. They don't want to be stuck in their car. They want to have this live, work, play environment. They want to sort of go and bring their kids to school. They want to shop. They want to dine. They want to get their lifestyle needs met. They want to bring their kids for food. So there's a reason why things circle back. And because Miami has become so dense, we know that it takes forever to go from place to place. So when we look at Coconut Grove and Coco Walk in particular, why Coco Walk now, and what can Coco Walk be to be different than what it was? Previously, it was the place. It was entertainment, it was entertainment, it was the place. They had thematic restaurants. Many of you remember Tutu Tango that was there, or Hooters. They had pretty much whatever the hot concept was, that was going to Coco Walk. But today, we can't live with single-purpose destinations like this. They need to be more mixed use. I think what you heard a lot about earlier was the mixed-use nature of a lot of the new projects. And when we look at Coco Walk and we look at its location, and certainly you can't beat a view like this, what you see in Coconut Grove today is you have one of the most historic villages, the original village of Miami, the closest urban walkable community to the CBD. You have gorgeous high-end condos being built. You have the hotels. You have magnificent residential homes, and you have amazing statistics. And the one that really grabs me the most is students. And when you look at the little village of Coconut Grove and you understand that there's 6,000 students that go to school in Coconut Grove every day, that was a number that was really tough to wrap my head around. I mean, 6,000 students, of which over 3,400 of those or 3,200 of those are private school students. And when you think about all those moms and dads driving their kids to school, and what they drop them off and where are they going to go? They go out to Dadeland, they go out down towards South Miami, or they'll go out to Coral Gables, but they don't stay in Coconut Grove because there's nothing for them there. So for us, what we want to do is capitalize on that and take advantage of really all the local demographics that surround the site. When you see Coconut Grove, it's right at the bullseye of Brickell, Coral Gables, Pinecrest, and very accessible to Key Biscayne. So these demographics are phenomenal. These are not just tourist demographics. These are hardcore year-round demographics. These are the people that live, work, and shop in our community every day. So, the opportunity to locate in Coconut Grove offers a great situation for families and young professionals and so on. So Coco Walk, when it was developed in this format as a retail-oriented project, an entertainment-oriented project. And what we're going to do is look to mix use the project. We're going to bring in alternate uses and eliminate some of the upper levels of retail space, which is no longer functional. Some of the renderings I'm going to share with you are purely conceptual and ones that we're working on and working with the community. And it's one of those things when you talk about a public-private venture. None of these are private ventures. They all require public participation. So we are constantly out there working with the cities and the local governments and the neighborhoods and the communities to really bring these projects forward. So when you look at a potential future understanding of Coco Walk, where we've demolished the center core area and sort of opened it up to become a great plaza. We've incorporated additional office space into Coco Walk, which is we have approximately 180,000 square feet of retail with an existing 20,000 feet of office. We would be adding another 60 to 70,000 square feet of creative office space. The office market in Coconut Grove today is extremely tight. The vacancy today is under 3% for Class A office space. Mayfair, which had been all retail for many, many years, Mayfair Shopping Center, has now been 100% converted to offices. The most recent arrival was Sapient Nitro, which just relocated 600 employees from Miami Beach. And that's a young creative company where your employees average 30 years old and they're making six-figure salaries. A great demographic to bring into the Grove. So we see that people want to have this live, work, play environment. They can live out on 27th Avenue or 37th Avenue. They can take the shuttles into town. They can, and they can walk. The plaza areas will be opened up to create a much more exciting environment. We look at making CocoWalk the place where people come to achieve their daily activities. It's a place to come and hang out. It essentially becomes the living room of Coconut Grove. We need to get people off their couch. We need to provide exciting retail concepts, more of the boutiques, moving away from the large-scale national retail formats, bringing back some charm, bringing in the fitness-type tenants, the Pilates, the yoga, the spinning, bringing in the blow-dry bars, bringing in the daily lifestyles, the uses that will meet the daily lifestyles of the residents that now live in the Grove. So the Grove will continue to evolve. Many of us have seen a variety of new restaurants that have come in into the area, and that sort of sets the motion for the retailers. Retailing has changed quite a bit, and if we don't find environments to get people out to come to, they're just not going to do that. And this is a concept plan of the plaza, the new plaza at CocoWalk, which allows people to come in and have direct access from the parking garage or from the streets. It's really about incorporating it more into the street grid of the community and really making it very accessible. CocoWalk, in addition to just CocoWalk being done, all of downtown Coconut Grove is receiving a makeover. Almost every building in the center core is being redone. And it's really exciting. We're getting exciting new tenants into Coconut Grove. We've recently brought in La Pancote City Inn, which will be open in the next couple of months. Rafa Cycling, international cycling retailer, has come into Coconut Grove. And they don't really sell the bicycles. They sell the clothes that look nice on you to ride those bicycles. And for all of you that know, if you on the weekends, the Grove is really the center point for exercise and lifestyle for people who live down in Coral Gables, Pinecrest, Key Biscayne, etc. So everything really is built around a public plaza and really trying to bring in those lifestyle uses. Sunset Place, on the other hand, is also another area which surrounds another great street. South Miami, in the city of South Miami, is a great little boutique town. It's a very small town with a big name. The city of South Miami only has about 10,000 people, but it's surrounded by Coral Gables and Pinecrest, and again, those same demographics that we get to see in Coconut Grove are also here. So being able to control both Sunset Place and CocoWalk in the same venture really allows us to merchandise the properties so that they can operate effectively together. And I just want to bring up, my partners in these two projects are Federal Realty, which is a large REIT, and many of them are here today, as well as Grass River, which is a local group. And the three of us really have come together for a lot of reasons. And Federal is really great at doing these mixed-use projects. They have done some phenomenal projects around the country, and many of you have seen those, I'm sure. Santana Row in California, Bethesda Row in Maryland, or Assembly Row in Boston. And the idea of creating mixed use, you heard it before, it's where it's at. Sunset Place sits in the heart of South Miami. It was completed in the late 90s, but it's 10 acres that sits in the heart of South Miami, in the heart of the area. Right across the street from the University of Miami, directly across the street from one of the #1 Whole Foods, adjacent to the Baptist Hospital campus, and really at the intersection of some of the great streets, South Dixie Highway and Red Road and Sunset Drive. So what we see as to Arnaud's point of transit-oriented development, this project actually sits right at the heart of the Metro Rail, right, in downtown South Miami. And the Metro Rail station sits right across the street from the site. Underneath the Metro Rail will be the Underline, which many of you have heard of. And that's a really exciting project. Many of you are familiar with the High Line in New York. This essentially takes the High Line concept and really introduces it into Miami. It will extend from Dadeland all the way into downtown and then points beyond. But lifestyle changes. People want to be out of their cars. They want to be on their bicycles. They want to be walking. They want to have a place where they can hang out. And when you talk about mixed use coming in, you talk about all these department stores with these empty boxes. And a lot of these shopping centers were built in areas where it started out in the middle of nowhere. But today they actually sit in the middle of everywhere. And everyone says, well, what's going to happen to these malls? And, as you heard James in the earlier panel, I mean, these department store pads will get reused and gentrified, and they'll be coming in, whether it's residential, whether it's backfilling of retail spaces, whether it's large box format stores, whether it's entertainment uses. So we see retail continuing to prosper. We see a lot of activities that continue to grow. And so the way we've approached Sunset Place, again, is looking at a great street. Sunset Drive is the downtown street of South Miami, and Sunset Place is purely an extension of that main street. We're going to be taking a lot of the architecture and modifying that and contemporizing it, and you can see a couple of before and after locations. This one happens to show the Sunset Drive entrance, and really how easily this could be modified to give it a more contemporary feel. Taking the Red Road corner and Sunset Drive, we can clean up that elevation, as well as the elevations along Red Road. The project will take place in two phases. The first phase, which will be to the left side of the photograph here, requires the rehabilitation of, and hence phase one, of the existing project. A lot of that will be changing all the exterior facades and improving all the vertical transportation throughout the property, as well as improving the parking and the arrival to the project. We view the arrival really as the entrance to the project, and really a very important point of entrance, and something that we really need to focus on. But to spend a minute here and look at where the project separates is really here on Red Road, where you have the area to the left, which will actually be demolished in the top picture. It will be demolished for about 75 yards or so down to create a great public plaza. The right side of that photograph, of the bottom photograph, would actually show where we would introduce new residential and hotel. Today, Sunset is about 500,000 square feet of retail and entertainment. We probably will shrink that down a little bit, but incorporating in new hotel of 200 rooms and is up to about 400 residential units. The whole notion of bringing in this residential into the downtown allows Sunset and the city of South Miami to enjoy the benefits of bringing in this mixed use without necessarily disrupting the charm of the existing downtown. As you can see, when the project gets completed with the reconfiguration of the area on the left as phase one, many of you who have been there will notice that the street that runs up the middle of the project is now elevated and really becoming more of a plaza area. The plaza will be filled with canopy trees and really great soft seating areas. We're going to bring in a host of new restaurants and cafes. And then as you move down towards the right in phase one, you can see where the building has been cut down and where we've created sort of a kiosk, sort of an oyster bar kiosk, which creates, again, another living room area, if you will, for the city of South Miami. That little plaza sits right across from the Whole Foods. And the whole idea is really to bring people into the downtown, let them go shop, let them come across the street, let them get their lifestyle needs met, let them pick up their children from school, bring them back, go shop, and so on. As you can see, what we've done on the right side of the site plan is we've ultimately come up with a plan to demolish pretty much everything to the north of the street that comes through the property. Now, this will happen in phases, working with existing tenants and so on. But if you step forward and you look at the overall plan, the idea really is to open up the street and bring it right out to US 1. We've brought back the buildings out at the corner of US 1 and really looked to give it a great presence, almost a gateway entrance to the city of South Miami. All of Red Road, which runs along the bottom portion of the rendering, will be upgraded. We are working with the adjacent municipalities to upgrade the streets, bring in new canopy trees, and hopefully bike lanes, and improving that connectivity over to the underline and the metro rail across the street. As you can see on the second floor, you can start to see on the right side how the residential and the hotel buildings come into place. And this just gives you an idea of some of the features and things that we're going to be bringing in and incorporating into the lifestyle and the feel and the vibe of the place. When we look at streets today and we look at what's exciting in Miami and what's happening in areas around Miami, I mean, you hear about streets all the time. We hear about East Atlantic up in Delray. We hear about Las Olas Boulevard in Fort Lauderdale. We hear about the Coconut Grove. We hear about Lincoln Road. We hear about Wynwood Design District. All of these areas really provide great opportunities for families and the community to gather. It's all about gathering places. So our company was just given an assignment to handle the re-merchandising of the retail portion of Las Olas Boulevard. And for any of you that are familiar with Las Olas Boulevard, it's a great pedestrian street. It's a magnificent feel. It has a great tree-lined street. It's the kind of street that everybody wants to have in their own backyard. It's the kind of street that Arnaud would try to create within his project, or Al would try to create within their project. And what's really interesting about Las Olas is really the way it's coming about. And for many years, while being a great street, it has been held back in terms of its merchandising mix. And this is a great street which has tremendous opportunity and potential. It sits adjacent to the CBD, which is 4 million square feet of Class A office space. It's surrounded by some magnificent residential developments. Related is doing an Icon building just to the left of the street here. And there's thousands and thousands of new residential units coming into the downtown in conjunction with Flagler Village and a number of the other high-rises. You're literally steps to the beach, so there's no reason why this street should not elevate. The interesting part about it is that where streets like this are typically owned by numerous different owners, here there's one large owner that owns about 70% of the street. And rather than them going on and leasing and trying to put together their merchandising, they've actually come together with several of the other property owners, which actually brings together 90% of the storefronts along Las Olas Boulevard, which allows us then to go and re-merchandise. And so Las Olas Boulevard today is approximately 250,000 square feet. Available today, or space that can be in play, is about 100,000 square feet. So this really gives us an incredible opportunity to sort of say, okay, you have this new live-work environment, you have tremendous office supply in the area, you have hotels in the area, you're close to the water. This is an amazing opportunity. But the interesting thing is that these owners have come together and have hired us to come in and work together to develop the merchandising mix for the street. And a lot of times, we've done this before. When I went to Lincoln Road 20 years ago and we started looking and, we tried to figure out, okay, where was the energy going to start? Because you have to start somewhere when you start on these streets. And, we tried to get as much control of as many spaces as we can so that way we could organize where these tenants were going to go. But the goal here is to work with all the different property owners and say, just don't lease just to lease. Lease because you're leasing to a tenant that's accretive to the overall mix. So we see Las Olas is going to be one of these next streets that you will all hear a lot about over the next couple of years.
Thank you, Michael. Okay, this panel stands between you and our next speakers. So let me tell you what we're going to do. They've whet your appetite. They're going to be around here for the rest of the evening. We're going to let you hold your questions until you see them later, and we're going to take a moment to transition into our next speaker. Thank you, gentlemen, very much.
Thank you.